Let's talk about some of the guys that are remaining, though, in the transfer portal. This big episode we're doing now is kind of matchmaking these guys. So let's first look at the position that everyone loves to talk about in the transfer portal. That is, of course, quarterbacks. And the top remaining quarterbacks in the transfer portal right now. Cameron Ward is up there from Washington State. Dante Moore from UCLA. Will Howard from Kansas State. Kyle McCord from Ohio State. And DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State. Let's start off with the top guy, I think, on everyone's kind of big board right now, Cameron Ward. And there's a lot of rumors about him maybe not even transferring. Maybe he goes to the NFL draft, declares for the NFL draft, and maybe he goes to another big-time school as well. But if he does end up transferring, Dalton, what are the schools that you think he should really be looking at?
I actually think the two big schools that have been rumored both make sense, and that's Florida State and Ohio State. I think you have it. Let's start with Ohio State. I think they're looking for a little bit more of a dynamic playmaker that they're used to having. McCord, I think, is a really good pocket passer, but they were missing the running element, the mobile element to their offense, and Cam can bring that. And Ohio State's always loaded with receivers. I mean, I know they're losing their top three guys right now, Harrison, Ibuka, Fleming, but he can go in there and be the centerpiece of an offense. And I think that's the difference between Ward and a lot of these other guys is Ward has shown the potential to be that centerpiece. He just wasn't surrounded with the most talent at Washington State. Florida State, I think with him, his skill set actually isn't that different than Jordan Travis. I think Travis runs a little harder. He's a little bit thicker than Ward. And the big difference is that Jordan Travis, I believe he was either the highest or second highest graded passer this year, throwing into tight windows. That'll be a big thing for Cam Ward, is knowing when to take an aggressive shot and when not to, because that's when he gets in trouble. But I think it makes sense to me for Florida State. If Norvell's trying to build something with a reasonably mobile quarterback who's not afraid to sling it down the field, Ward's skill set is not that different than Jordan Travis.
Right.
And I think it would be a seamless fit, because if he walks into next year with Tate Rodemaker, that's different. Rodemaker is like a true pocket passer, and I think he's a good passer, but if he's looking to continue to do the same things, he's got his whole counter series and read options and even design runs. I think Cam Ward can do that, where right now nobody else on his roster can do that. I think either one is a fit, and I would get the argument maybe based on a more seamless fit and less transition and changing the offense. I'd probably say Florida State's the best fit for him right now.
Yeah, so I think those are the two I would say, too, that he should be going to. And yeah, he is. I do think he's more of a high variance player than a lot of people say. Honestly, I mean, listen, he's got a big arm. He can really make unbelievable throws. He had 23 big time throws this year, which are third among Pac-12 signal callers. But over the last 2 years, his 2 years at Washington State, he has 41 turnover-worthy plays. That is the most among Power 5 quarterbacks in that span. So he's a guy that makes some amazing throws, but also makes some head-scratching ones as well. So he is a high-variance player, but also, like I said, the ceiling with him is super high. So that's why you see schools like Ohio State or Florida State, big-time playoff contending programs, want a guy like this. Now, I will say, he took a visit to Miami, Dalton, and he actually was seen with Mario Cristobal and Rick Ross, the rapper. He was seen on the Miami visit. So let's talk about the Miami thing a little bit, because I think this is honestly, it might be the favorite to land him right now. How would you like that fit in Miami if Cam Ward decides to go there?
This is the thing with Cam. Cam's the one guy on this list that I don't really hate the fit anywhere. I think you just have to surround him with talent, and the big thing he really needs is a better offensive line than he had at Washington State, right? I think he gets in trouble with a lot of those turnover-worthy plays late in the play. When he's pressured, he's rolling late in the play, making a poor decision instead of just taking a 6-yard run and playing it safe, living to play the next down. Miami has those things. They're losing Restrepo, but they've got a good core of receivers. They got a good core of backs in there. I don't think there's a lot of places where Cam Ward doesn't make sense. So I get the Miami thing, and we'll see how much Florida State and Miami might be fighting over this, whether it be through NIL or whatever means. But he's a guy. I wouldn't hate that fit either. I really wouldn't. He's a more dynamic player than Tyler Van Dyke or any other quarterback on their roster. It's going to be – this is why he's the top guy on the list right now, because I think he's the one guy I look at the rest and I go, I think there's a system thing, or like even Dante Moore's just young and might need some time.
Mm-hmm.
But Ward is a guy I think is the most plug and play, the most versatile passer. He's mobile, he can throw it vertically, and he can really play in any system that you want him to. I think Miami it makes sense also for them. I think it'd be a huge get if they get him, but they got some serious competition.
Yeah, Miami also a big thing about Miami. I know the Florida State and Ohio State aren't lacking in NIL either, but Miami is very good at NIL. I'm sure they're making up a very lucrative offer, honestly, to go play for Miami. So he's also apparently Florida State is really trying to get a visit for him as well. Ohio State, obviously, I've heard USC is an option, kind of running a similar kind of offense at USC that he did at Washington State. So those are some options for him. He's a terrific guy. He's also a terrific kid. We actually have an interview with Cameron Ward you can find on this channel. And I actually asked him, Dalton, when he was transferring from Incarnate Word, where he was looking at besides Washington State, and he told me Ole Miss, Nebraska, and Houston were the three schools. I don't think any of those three schools are actually options now, especially Ole Miss having Jackson Dart, and they're kind of set at quarterback there. But I don't know, maybe Nebraska, maybe Matt Rule. We've heard a lot about Matt Rule making some plays for quarterbacks. I don't think they're really options now, and Houston obviously was his hometown school that he actually told me he wanted to go to Houston originally, and they never offered him. They always told him, like, hey, we're going to offer you. They never did. And I'm sure they're regretting that now because Houston obviously could really use a guy like Cameron Ward now. So, yeah, he said it was really fun telling Houston no in the portal when they told him no out of high school. It's like, oh, it feels good now being on the other side of this now. But Cam Ward, watch the interview. He's an awesome guy, and we're rooting for him. And excited to see where he goes, man, because he seems like the biggest domino left right now in the transfer portal. Next one I want to talk about, Dalton, is Dante Moore, who kind of had an up and down true freshman season. Started off on fire, started off looking like the 2026 number 1 overall pick. Then he tapered off. Then he looked like a true freshman the rest of the season. Earned a 58 grade on the season in his 6 starts. Still had the 4th best big-time throw rate in the Pac-12 this year. Still was the number 3 recruit coming out of high school, 5-star recruit, and he has 2 years of college football left, at least 2 more years, which I think is a big thing with his recruitment as well. What do you think about him, and do you think he should go to a school where he can start right away, or maybe do you think a school where he might sit for a year and then start as a junior could be the option for him?
I think he could start right away in the right system. I really like your Michigan idea from the other day. I think he would be – it's a place where it's more insulated. Mm-hmm. And the run game works, and you want to work heavy off play action. I just think when he drops back and he throws the football, he looks like a pro style under center quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually got more arm talent, more potential than JJ McCarthy does. So if McCarthy enters the draft this season, you're looking at, especially with Harbaugh, if he's going to get in the eye, hard play action, shots over the top. Deep crossers, things like that. Moore can make every throw on the field, and I think you just need to give him time. I don't know. Maybe it's just with UCLA that he shouldn't be expected yet to carry the load for 40 throws a game. Right? Go to a place like Michigan. It's 20 to 25. It's heavy play action. It's max protection. It's 2 and 3 man concepts. I don't think that's a terrible fit. I know the Oregon thing is coming up now. He's going to take a visit this week, and it would make sense for him to sit for a year or two behind Dylan Gabriel and just kind of learn. I think especially that the one thing that sitting back would do, I think, is help him in the quick passing game. Right? Mm-hmm. I think he wants to hold the ball and throw it down the field, and he doesn't necessarily make the quickest decisions yet. But he was a true freshman, right? Whereas there's elements of Chip Kelly's offense, it moves so fast that you have to make really, really quick decisions. We're not milking the play clock. We're getting up. We're running the ball. You have to make a quick read. That's going to take some time if he's going to run an offense like that. And going to a school like Oregon, it will benefit him to sit. But I think if he does want to play right now, or next year, I should say, a place like Michigan makes sense.
Yeah.
It's insulated. They're not going to ask him to do too much. And I think it's going to be kind of, this is the same thing Michigan has done and kind of sometimes still does with J.J. McCarthy, right? It's just we're not asking you to carry us. And maybe one day we will, but Dante Moore, I think in a situation where he doesn't have to do that, might be better off because he can make every throw on the field. You just have to be opportune with when you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of potential still. I know he kind of really struggled over the second half of his true freshman season, and he got benched. But, man, this guy still has a lot of potential, man. I mean, he was, like I said, he was a top 3 recruit coming out of high school, the number 2 quarterback only behind Arch Manning. So I really think Dante Moore, again, you get 2 years of him. He's from Michigan as well. He's from Detroit, Michigan. So maybe he wants to go back home to Michigan. A really interesting thing with that is whether or not JG declares. There's a lot of rumors about him maybe coming back. If he wins it all, if he wins the national championship, I think he probably would declare, especially with Jim Harbaugh maybe going to the NFL too. That's another big thing, I think, with Dante Moore and whether or not he goes there. But Miami apparently is trying to get him on a visit as well. Miami's really trying to make a play, man, for a quarterback right now after losing Tyler Van Dyke. So I heard Miami's trying to get a visit. Michigan State, another school from his kind of hometown, is looking to get a visit as well. And you said Oregon, too. Oregon was actually, he was committed to Oregon for the longest time. And then right around signing day, he flipped in one of the biggest flips. And he went to UCLA instead. So Oregon might go back to Oregon, the school he originally did, kind of like what Quinn Ewers did when Quinn Ewers was committed to Texas for forever, flipped to Ohio State last second, spent a year there, and then went back to Texas. That might be what Dante Moore honestly does at UCLA going to Oregon. So that's another big one. Let's go to Will Howard now. This is another interesting one. The Kansas State quarterback who really excels off of play action. Where do you think he might fit, man? He's kind of an interesting one, too, in terms of what schools are looking at him.
This is one of the hardest ones for me. I know he visited Miami as well, but they're one of the lowest play action rate teams in the Power 5. A good one for me would have actually been probably Kentucky if they hadn't already gotten Vandegrift. Howard's the hardest one I'm finding a fit for. Maybe a Michigan State. Man, it's tough. Maybe even in Arkansas. Is it right? KJ Jefferson is in the portal as well.
He's not actually. No, he withdrew, and Arkansas actually got Taylon Green, the Boise State quarterback, too. A couple days ago.
I'm like looking. He's the hardest one I'm having. I would have said like Kentucky. Even Louisville would have been a good one, but now they have Shuck. I just think he needs a team. I think similar to Kansas State. He's generally 1 or 2 games he showed it this year, but he's not generally the best like just drop back passer.
Yeah.
Like I actually don't think Miami's offense is the fit. I think somebody more like Moore or Ward fits there better. But Howard, I'm struggling with some of these places that have been filled. I probably would have said Kentucky before Vandegrift went there, and maybe he could still go there and compete for the job. But he's the hardest one because he's so reliant. Like he is a dual threat to an extent. He's one of the best play action passers in the country because he's just good at kind of reading when guys are stepping up and getting it over the top of them. But in most drop back situations, now the argument is, look, watch the second half against Texas. If you just watch that second half, you could convince yourself he can play in any offense. But it hasn't been consistent enough. This is honestly, I think of all these guys, this has been the hardest one for me to figure out. I just think I don't know that he's a consistent enough drop back passer to go somewhere like a place like Florida State. I wouldn't put him there. Yeah. Or an Ohio State where it's like a true drop back system. I wouldn't put him there. I'm trying to think of if there's any other places that can insulate him just a bit. I don't think as much as like a young kid like Moore, because Howard's been around forever and I think the biggest thing with him, he's got big game experience, right? Mm-hmm. He's won a Big 12 title. He's played in a ton of big games. I think that is valuable to some of the bigger schools, but schematically, it's hard for me to find a fit for Howard right now, unless he's willing, let's say, to go to Kentucky, who's run heavy and kind of plays his style of football, and compete with Brock Vandegrift for the job.
Yeah. So I will say, Miami took a Miami visit. USC early on was really rumored heavily for him. I don't know if I love that either. If he goes to USC, I think they've got a 5-star freshman, Malachi Nelson, that's kind of waiting in the wings, and that seems to be the thing that's working for Lincoln Riley right now, is just always bring in a 5-star every couple years or so and then kind of develop them into a superstar. That's what he's been doing forever, basically. I don't know if bringing in a transfer is the answer there. So USC, I don't love that. One I love, Dalton, that you actually mentioned before, and I did some digging, and I love the fit. Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby.
Yeah.
I think at Jeff Lebby in Oklahoma, they ran play action at the second highest rate in college football this year. I think Will Howard fits that perfectly. And I think that's I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's a superstar. I think that kind of fits Mississippi State too. So I think Mississippi State would be a good fit for him in the SEC with a guy like Jeff Lebby who runs an offense that is perfect for Will Howard. I think Mississippi State would be a good fit. But right now it seems like Miami has been kind of the favorite for him, taking him on a visit. What about Kyle McCord from Ohio State? Obviously another guy who had a solid year for Ohio State. I think got too much hate, honestly, from Buckeye fans. There's kind of one school that's really been sticking out for him, Dalton, right now. What school is it?
It's Nebraska, and you know what? The more I thought about it, I think it's kind of a fit. I think what Matt Rule wants to do, he wants to run the ball. He wants to kind of use tight ends, and he doesn't want to be too wide open with his offense. I think he wants balance, and McCord. I think McCord, is he the best quarterback in the country? No. Does he have a certain skill set? Yes, but they had, it was only ahead of Army. They were second worst passing grade in the country this year, only ahead of Army, which, right. They need, this is just such a massive improvement if they were to get McCord. I think that's what Matt Rule is looking for. Even if McCord is not like the perfect player, he doesn't move a lot, he's not great under pressure. But that improvement, and I think improvement in the second year is kind of a theme with Matt Rule, right? His first year at Temple, he won 2 games. Second year, 6-6 bowl game, right? First year at Baylor, they won 1 game coming out of that train wreck that was with Art Briles and all that stuff. Next year went 7-6. Matt Rule's thing, at least in college, is the first year assess it, the second year figure out how we're going to get better right now. And this past year, I actually give him a lot of credit going 5-7 because I didn't expect him to even win that many games.
Yeah.
They basically went 5-7 with no passing game at all. They have a good defense. Their defense is good. They can run the ball, and they just adding anything in the passing game is going to get them into bowl eligibility for sure. And I know the schedule is going to be a little tougher now with the new teams coming into the Big Ten, but they can play defense. They can run the ball. They got huge guys in the trenches, just massive dudes. I mean, and Matt Rule's teams always play fundamentally sound football, and I think Kyle McCord fits that really, really well. I think the improvement going from a Jeff Sims to a Kyle McCord, who again I think is underrated, got a lot of flack for nothing. He had a really good season. I know he didn't have a Heisman season. He's not one of those guys. He's probably not even capable of winning a Heisman or something like that, to be honest with you. But to get a really good functional passer, if he's protected, that's all they need, because their passing game was just non-existent this year. If they had any passing game, I bet they probably would have challenged Iowa for the Big Ten West title had they had any passing game. I believe they lost that game, was it 13-10 to Iowa?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they had anything in the passing game, they could have won that division. So I think it's a good place for McCord to go and prove himself. It's a good place for him and Nebraska to just make a huge improvement as a passer. And he's not going to be – I don't think he's going to be rattled in big games, man. He won at Notre Dame. He beat Penn State. He was 35 yards from beating Michigan. I don't see any reason for Nebraska or McCord not to do this.
Yeah, I love the fit as well. And Julian Fleming, it seems like he and McCord might be a package deal. So the Ohio State receiver – they get Julian Fleming there, man. That's another huge get. Both of them former 5-star recruits. Julian Fleming was the number 3 recruit coming out of high school. Actually grew up 20 minutes away from Penn State, and everyone thought he was a Penn State lock. Everyone was like, this guy's definitely going to Penn State. Grew up a Penn State fan. And then he ended up not going to Penn State, going to Ohio State. And people asked him, like, what the heck happened? And do you remember Justin Shorter, Dalton, the transfer to Florida, ended up he's on the Bills now. So Justin Shorter, coming out of high school, was a top 10 recruit in the country. Actually, his older brother went to my high school. I was actually friends with his older brother. He went to the school right around me too. But Justin, top 10 recruit in the country, getting Julio Jones comparisons, goes to Penn State, was terrible. I mean, not even. I can't even say he was terrible. We just didn't use him at all. Penn State did not use him at all. Big bust. He went to Florida, had a solid career at Florida. Now he's in the NFL with the Bills. Good for him, honestly. But Julian Fleming is like, I saw what happened to Justin Shorter at Penn State. He's like, I don't want that to happen to me either. He literally mentioned that, and I was like, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So hopefully Fleming is rumored Penn State as well. I would love that. But right now it seems like it's going to be a package deal. It seems like Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming are both going to go to Nebraska, who actually have been recruiting really well. Right now, Nebraska has the number 24 class in the country coming in next year. Matt Rule is doing things, man. He's doing some good stuff. So
I think people forgot because of all the Carolina Panthers stuff how good a coach Matt Rule is.
Awesome
everywhere he's gone to turn. I remember when he turned around Temple.
Yep.
And anytime you turn around Temple, that's like a miracle. I believe was it 3 or 4 straight bowl games at Temple, just things that they just don't do. And then to take that Baylor job after everything they went through and turn it around literally in the second year, and then I believe, did they win the Big 12 with him one year?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, Matt Rule's a really darn good coach. He may just not be an NFL coach, and we've seen how that Carolina Panthers situation is.
Yeah.
That guy can really, really coach, and he can turn things around quick. If you get both of those guys in that passing game that basically was nothing last year, and you add it with their defense and their horses in the trenches and their ability to run the ball, I think you have a reasonably dangerous team on that side of the conference.
And dude, I mean, that'd be phenomenal. He's a culture builder, and honestly, Nebraska needed that again. So he's that guy. I love that hire last year, and he is working out great. Not only that, Dawn, I know we're not really talking about high school recruits right now, but I don't know if you saw this. Dylan Raiola, the number 3 quarterback in the country, who is right now committed to Georgia, he apparently, all the rumors are, he might flip to Nebraska and go to Nebraska instead. 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola. I don't know if you know this, Dawn, but his uncle, Donovan Raiola, is the offensive line coach for Nebraska. And his father, Dominic Raiola, I believe, was a legendary center for Nebraska, played for the Lions for a long time, but he's a Nebraska legend as well. So it's kind of a Nebraska family, and everyone kind of thought Dylan might go there. Then he committed to Georgia. But right now, the favorite to land him right now is Nebraska. Everyone thinks he's going to flip to Nebraska. So if Matt Rule can get Kyle McCord, Julian Fleming, and then Dylan Raiola to take over after Kyle McCord, I mean, that is awesome for Matt Rule. So that's something to keep an eye on, too, as we get into National Signing Day, is that Dylan Raiola, the number 3 quarterback in America, 5-star quarterback, might flip from Georgia, the defending back-to-back national champs, to Nebraska, which would be honestly insane. But Kyle McCord seems like Nebraska is the heavy favorite for him. I'd honestly be shocked if it's not Nebraska at this point, with all the signs that are pointing to that. So seems like he's going there. There's another really interesting one. DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State, Dalton. What do you think he might do, honestly?
I mean, I know all the rumors have been leaning towards Florida State for now, and Louisville was in that mix before they got Tyler Shuck, and I wonder if they're still in that mix. But I just don't know that Florida State is the best. Like, I think in the run game it makes sense. Like he can do. I think there would be kind of a philosophical shift for Norvell. Like Uiagalelei, he can do all the things in the run game, probably just as well as Travis, but the lack sometimes of accuracy, especially in the drop back game, concerns me. Like I told you on Monday, I'm a little surprised we're not seeing more about possibly him following Jonathan Smith to Michigan State. Now, I don't know if he feels like, oh, I can get on a team that's in playoff contention and get him in the top 12 and do all that. I get that, because Michigan State's not going to be prepared for that next year. So I get the part about trying to find a winning team. But he's, I think, again, a little bit like Will Howard, trying to find a schematic fit. And not a lot of teams run their offense the way Oregon State did last year. Under center, 2 tight ends, run right at you, hard play action, 7-man protections. Like, just, it's hard to find a fit. I totally get on the talent, on the arm strength, on the downfield passing ability, why any school in the country would look at him. But I think he's been better. He's another guy like Howard who's been better when he's just insulated. Just a little bit. I need a really, really good run game, right? And Florida State's losing a lot of talent. Not sure what they're going to have around him, right, next year. I don't think Uiagalelei can carry you.
Yeah,
I just don't. I think that much has been proven. I think he's a B to B plus quarterback with a really good arm who can hurt you. You know, short yardage situations in the run game, over the top in the play action game, but. I would have liked to have seen him go to Louisville. Actually, I think Jeff Brom really could have. I think he really could have called the right plays for this guy.
Yeah.
It's not that Mike Norvell and Florida State can't. But it's different. It's different. It's much more set up in Louisville to support a guy like Uiagalelei. I wouldn't have minded seeing that instead of them going with Shuck.
I wonder. That's an interesting point. I wonder if they are still gonna be willing to take him. I wonder. Like Shuck is like. I don't think Shuck is that great, honestly. So I know he started for Texas Tech and he had a 65 grade this year. He's always been just like solid. I never really thought he was that good. I wonder if DJ's like still like, oh, I could beat that guy out easily. Now I wonder if Tyler Shuck might also be like, you guys are screwing me over here. Like I thought you were taking me in to be the starter. Now all of a sudden you're bringing another guy. So I don't know. It's weird. I wonder if Louisville's
it's a hard one. I get totally why he's looking to go to a Florida State. He wants to win because again, I think a big motivation now on both sides of this portal is going to be who can get in the top 12, right? Before when it was 4, it was so limited to like really like
Caleb
8 or 9
Williams,
teams.
like that's it.
Before this year and all the controversy this year, it felt like we were pretty much the same 6 teams, some combination of 4 of them were making the playoff every year. If you weren't at Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, then it wasn't irrelevant. Now playoff contention's a relevant decision, and these guys, especially the quarterbacks, are going to look at those schools first. I get the Florida State thing. I'm a little shaky on if it would work.
I wonder if I think they're waiting on Cam Ward, and I think they're gonna if Cam Ward does not come through, whether or not he declares for the draft or goes to Miami or wherever, I think then they turn to DJ and be like, all right, we'll take DJ in and do that instead. I will say this. So DJ did an interview with ESPN's Tom Van Haren, one of the top college football reporters. He's terrific, so check it out if you can. But he did an interview and talked about the schools that he's talked to. He said, all right, I've talked to a couple schools. I've talked to Mississippi State, Louisville, Florida State, and then a few schools have reached out to some coaches of mine. Ohio State reached out to one of my coaches. I haven't talked to them, but they are one of the schools that reached out. So Ohio State reached out kind of through some back channels about DJ. I wonder if Ryan Day is kind of thinking maybe he might be panicking right now because it seems like Cam Ward is like up in the air completely. And if that doesn't work out, it's like Ryan Day's like, I don't know what we're going to do at quarterback with Kyle McCord leaving too. So I wonder if he's kind of looking at DJ right now as kind of one of those guys as well. And Mississippi State also reaching out. That I love that fit too. That play action offense for DJ. I know it's not a playoff contender probably, but Mississippi State also could be an interesting one for DJ as well.
Yeah, it's a weird one though because it's a lot more spread out than he's used to.
Right.
Ohio State's in a weird spot. I think any of these schools that are looking at Cam Ward, they're going to be in a holding pattern until that decision's made. It's kind of like the big free agent on the market, and then the dominoes fall. Right? It's the reason. Like again, Cam Ward's the one guy who I don't have like a schematic problem fitting him in anywhere. Mm-hmm. He's just talented, and he can do all the things you ask him to do. All of these other guys have some sort of just little bit of a handcuff where you go, there is not that Cam Ward's not flawed because the turnover worthy play things is an issue, but that's more of like a general football thing than a fit thing. Any good coach is going to sit there and go, oh, I can fix that. But this is why Ward's the bigger prize. And DJ, look, these other teams, if they're looking at a transfer quarterback, they should look at DJ right after Ward, right? He does have a ton of ability. He's got size. He can run. He's got a boatload of ability.
One of the strongest arms in the country, I think. Yeah, his arm is ridiculous.
He just has, much like the rest of these guys, Howard and McCord and Van Dyke, none of them have shown the ability to carry an offense when you need them to, right? If DJ could do that, they very likely would have beaten Washington, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna be an odd one. I'm really curious to see where he ends up and how that fits in because I kind of think Louisville might have been the best fit and that door might be shut.
Yeah, dude, I'm wondering if Ohio State screwed themselves because it feels like Kyle McCord wouldn't just leave Ohio State if he's gonna be a starter next year. You know,
something happened there.
I feel like
something
Ryan
had to have
probably went to him as like, listen, we're gonna get a guy. You know, have your affairs in order. You might want to look at the port. I wonder if now they're screwed, man. Because I think Riley Leonard they were trying to go after too. He's obviously off the table with Notre Dame now.
I can't guarantee. I'm going to be honest. By this time next year, I'm not saying it's the most likely outcome, but I can't guarantee that any of these guys are better than Kyle McCord.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I wonder if they screwed themselves.
Some of these guys we think are better. But I think McCord's in the same class as the rest of these guys. I get the style thing because he doesn't move, but
What are you going to do?
Something had to have happened there.
You strike out on Cam Ward, which looks honestly likely at this point. I mean, Ohio State is still in the running, but it seems like Miami and Florida State or even the NFL draft are still the more likely options. You strike out on him. I don't have anything about Dante Moore with them. I wonder what the heck they do, man. I don't know what quarterback they'd really look at and be like, oh, we got to get that guy now and bring him in. Like, I don't know. I wonder if this is a mistake by Ohio State kind of forcing McCord out of there. I don't know. I heard Riley Leonard was an option for them. They were really going after him. He obviously decided on Notre Dame. Check out a Riley Leonard Notre Dame video. But I wonder if Ryan Day's kind of, maybe he calls up McCord and is like, listen, please come back. Honestly, now we'll have you again as a quarterback. I don't know. I'm worried about Ohio State.
It's hard, man. It's hard to get rid of a guy who went 11-1. I'm just wondering, and I know, and look. Wouldn't you have liked to have had him being in the system and on the team and all that when you're losing Harrison and Ibuka and Stover and a bunch of D linemen? And I mean, unless it was a McCord decision going, man, our team's not getting any better than it was this year.
Yeah. Man, it's hard to just leave if you're the starting quarterback of Ohio State, though. That's why I think he got forced out. I think they told him, hey, we're getting someone else, so you might want to get out of here. It's weird, man. It's a weird. I wonder. I don't know who they think they're gonna get, but
it was far and away the most surprising one.
Yeah.
Of all of them, because I just didn't. I thought they had, despite the loss to Michigan, I know everything's measured on that one game. I thought they had a really successful year, considering there was such a question at that spot. And McCord, he wasn't the best quarterback. He wasn't the best quarterback in the country, but they made it happen.
Yeah. They made it happen. That's why I wonder if Day is regretting it right now. I wonder if they got a little cocky and thought, oh, we're Ohio State. We can get any of these guys. And now they're kind of, the chips are falling. They're like, oh, shoot. Like, maybe we've kind of screwed ourselves. So I don't know. That'd be an interesting one. Before we move on quickly to the non-quarterbacks that we want to talk about, I wanted to bring this up, too, because I think it's a really interesting storyline that not a lot of people are talking about. We have, Dalton, a couple former five-star quarterbacks who have sat on the bench for 3 years and have basically been backups for 3 years. We have no idea what they are. And Brock Vandagriff, who's going from Georgia to Kentucky. Ty Thompson, the Oregon quarterback, who entered the transfer portal. We don't know where he's going to go yet. But I'm really interested in those two guys, man, because they were the same class as Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers. And like I said, five-star quarterbacks coming out of high school. 3 years they sat on the bench. You never see that. You usually see 1 year on the bench, and then after that, if they're not going to be a starter, they get out of there, they transfer. These guys spent 3 years on the bench and now are finally in the portal now. So I'm interested in seeing what Vandagriff does at Kentucky and what Ty Thompson does, honestly, at whatever school he goes to, too.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they're good upside plays. I think Kentucky getting Vandagriff, and he's kind of mobile. He's kind of a lot like the quarterbacks they've had recently, right? But I think you have a couple of things, and some of this is circumstantial, where you had back in 2020, like you look at the guys they were sitting behind, right? Stetson Bennett, who was in college forever. You know, obviously all these guys got the extra year with COVID year. Bo Nix was in college forever. Mm-hmm. Dylan Gabriel's been in college forever, and they were all really good players, and they just didn't get an opportunity. And I actually give them credit, because there's so many guys who the second, especially quarterbacks, the second they're not the starter.
Oh, yeah, they're out of there.
And it's then, Vandagriff could have easily left last year when they named Beck the starter. Mm-hmm. Easy. I give these guys credit for sticking it out. But they're going to be good upside plays. Like a school like Kentucky, I think is perfect for Vandagriff. It's still SEC. They need a quarterback. They need a jolt in the passing game. He can move too. I think that really helps. And Ty Thompson played sparingly sometimes in the fourth quarter for Oregon when Nix was, already put up 60 points.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I know there's some Arizona State rumors with him. That's a good one. Like, they need a team that just needs an infusion of pure talent that for whatever reason hasn't gotten a chance. I think those would be really good. I think it is a good fit for Vandagriff, and a school like that's a good fit for Thompson. They do just need a chance, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they've learned a lot on the bench and sparingly played the last few years. But I think a lot of it is circumstantial with those two. When you talk about sitting behind guys who've been in college for what feels like 20 years, and now with Gabriel coming in, Thompson, now the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? You can't sit there forever if you were a 5-star guy. Somebody's going to believe in you enough to start right now.
Dude, it's so fun. The Ty Thompson one is, I don't know if you saw Ty Thompson's tweet that he kind of got clowned for, but when they lost to Washington in the Pac-12 title game, he kind of did the Stephon Diggs tweet where he's like standing on the sideline and watching the team celebrate.
Oh, against the Chiefs?
Yeah. He did that. He did that kind of tweet where he's kind of standing there like, oh, my time now. I feel so bad for that kid, man. His true freshman year, sat behind Anthony Brown. You're thinking, okay, freshman year, every five-star freshman usually sits for a year. Then I'll take over. They bring in Bo Nix. And he goes, okay, Bo Nix is here. I'll sit for another year. But he's going to declare for the draft if he has a great year. Bo Nix has a great year. And then Bo Nix goes, no, I'm coming back next year again. I'm coming back for another year. And Ty Thompson's like, okay. I'll come back next year again. I'll sit for my third year. Bo Nix is out of eligibility after this. He's gone. He's definitely gone. After that, then it's my turn, my fourth year. And then Dan Lanning goes, no, we're actually bringing in Dylan Gabriel.
It's hard, but the portal's made it hard for, I think recruiting is changing so much, especially at quarterback, right? Like, you can still keep recruiting D linemen, O linemen, receivers, because you got a million of them on your team. You can put 4 or 5 on the field at any time, right? But the quarterback, you can only have one.
Yeah.
Right? You only get one starter. The talent's getting spread out. I mean, I think there's a couple of things going on with this portal now where, like, obviously it used to be, right? Well, essentially what Clemson is doing now. Okay, we had Watson, and now it's the Trevor Lawrence era. And now it's the Cade Klubnik era. And we're going to ride that out to the end. Like, everything, the way the portal is now, you can get experienced, really good football players basically anytime you want.
Yeah.
Winning this year, it's almost more like the NFL. Winning this year, there are almost no more long-term projects in college football, man. Matt Rule, you're probably, if you go to a new job, you get 1 year, like Matt Rule got it at pretty much every job he's had, but at Nebraska, where it's like, okay, figure it out, look at it, analyze it, go. Like Mike Elko, this year, he's going to get a pass at A&M. Next year, he's going to be expected to win because you can infuse talent so much quicker now. But that's going to be the dilemma for some of these 4 or 5-star quarterbacks. Is it's only one spot to start on every team. And if the problem is being willing to wait doesn't work anymore.
No,
doesn't, because they'll just go get an experienced one. Even we've seen, LSU will go get a Jaden Daniels. 5 of the last 7 Heisman winners are transfers, right? You can go get a junior, senior quarterback, a really good football player anytime you want. And you can pay them whatever you want, right? It's I think, Dante, if you're going to be a 5-star guy and you expect to start as a freshman, you better be it.
Yeah.
You better be it now, because the number of ways to get replaced now,
insane, dude.
It's off the charts. I mean, and you've seen teams, and I think the other one too, like TCU last year, going from 5-7 to national title game, right? This can happen. This can happen now. And now with a top 12, you just went, I think, with a 12-team playoff. You just went from really 7 or 8 teams a year are in national title contention to probably at the beginning of the year 30 to 35 who feel like they can get there. Plus, honestly, probably 10 to 15 teams every year in the group of 5 that feel like they can take that 12th spot.
Right.
I mean, everybody. I mean, think about now you've got, I don't know, let's just say a Boise State feels like their team is loaded up enough that they could go 11-1 and get ranked and get the 12th spot. And I know we've seen it a few times and it hasn't worked all the time, but we've seen group of 5 quarterbacks come up and be really good. I think about Jackson Dart, somebody like that, right? When do some of these big time kids start going, you know what? Let me go to a Liberty. Let me go to a Tulane. Let me go to one of these big group of 5. Let me go to Boise State, and we'll backdoor it and we'll get in that way because rightfully now the group of 5 gets one spot. Let me go to Memphis, right? Let me go to SMU. Or what if Dante Moore, let's say, I don't know, something, Preston Stone left. What if Dante Moore went to somewhere like SMU with Rhett Lashley? Yeah. Is that crazy? All of a sudden, oh man, they look like they're going 12-0.
Yeah.
Right? I think the quarterback talent is going to start getting spread out like this. And these 5-star guys, the days of sitting for 2 years behind somebody and just waiting your turn, it's gone.
Yeah.
This portal's killed it.
That's why it's insane, man, with Vandegrift and Ty Thompson. It's like they literally could have declared for the draft this year, and we still have no idea who they are. It's crazy.
It's not, and for them, it's not worth sitting.
No, exactly.
What has Ty Thompson gained in the last 3 years if he can't play at a school like Oregon? He's just sitting there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you could commend them all you want, like, oh, good for like, honestly, but it's like, dude, you should have been out of there before that, honestly. So.
The days of all that loyalty and all this, we can do.
Gone.
They'll still do that. They'll still do the hat thing with the recruiting forever. But that's like a 9-month commitment now. That's what we have.
Yeah, you gotta look out for you and you alone in this era, man. Honestly.